Hello, welcome back to episode 4. Oops, we get to see a blooper now. Episode 4 of the Code AI podcast. It's my little ring light.
Oh.
We're not going to cut this out because you got to see how life works around here. Okay, that was a close up. Anyway, welcome back. Episode 4 of the Code AI podcast. I'm going to be honest, woke up in a shit mood this morning. Not really going to go into details as to why, but just not the best of moods this morning. Didn't know until this morning that we did in fact have a guest on today. But you know what? As I just learned from our guest, sometimes it's the small things in life that you don't think are going to have an impact that can impact you in a big way. So today we had Jon Cheney on, and he is a serial entrepreneur, or as he likes to say, he's a glutton for punishment. We've had a lot of guests on our podcast because we have another podcast. We've had a lot of guests on our podcast throughout the last few years. And oftentimes you will hear me say, oh, I could talk to that person. And I'm not lying. Like, I don't lie. Like, that genuinely is how I feel. Like, oh, I could definitely have another conversation with that person. I selfishly wanted to keep Jon all afternoon. Like, all afternoon. And
interesting guy. Yeah, very, very easy to talk to.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Just
Not only is he easy to talk to, but he talks to you on a level where I don't care how smart you are or how not smart you are. He's on your level. I don't know how he does that, but he's on your level. He's so likable, like so likable. His knowledge is vast, and he's just so generous with his time and his thoughts. And I genuinely, I want to have him back like tomorrow, because we had great conversations about a lot of things, but there's so much to do with AI and the world of AI and what surrounds the AI that we could have taken every single question we asked and done a real deep dive into each single one. I will say, I think this is the podcast where you and I have talked the absolute least, because you just sit back and you just listen.
The way it should be, though, right? I mean, they're...
Yes, but there are times when like a conversation happens, and we've done that. But I'm just happy to sit back and just let him go. And at no point was I bored or like didn't understand what he was saying. He's just, you guys have to listen to this episode. He probably is my most favorite guest we've ever had on. Literally would have kept him all afternoon if I could have, because I just wanted to just keep getting into his brain. I thought he was great. Really great.
Well, before we dive into that, what have you been up to? Probably not a lot, but
I'm there.
Other than the heat, that's so gross.
Yeah. We are currently, we have been for days. I'm just going to check my phone. We've been under a crazy ass heat advisory here in Florida, in Central Florida. It feels like 103 right now here. It's a great time.
Gross.
So that's happening. We went out on the boat on Saturday, and miserable. It was so hot, so hot, and even getting in the water was just. My husband and one of our kids were scalloping, so they went and caught a bunch of scallops, and then my husband came home and he cooked them all and distributed them to our neighbors. Which is really sweet, because we've got these new neighbors. I think I told you about them. They're like 2 doors down, the nicest people. They're so nice. And so his wife was not home, but Jesus was home, and so my husband had given Jesus some of these scallops, and like literally 2 hours later, Jesus is knocking on the door, and he had cooked steaks, and he had bought my husband steaks back. My husband had given him just the nicest guy.
Good move.
So we did that, and then Sunday went and hung out with one of my friends and her boyfriend, and he cooked, because I wasn't with her on her birthday, so this was kind of catching up for her birthday. And he cooked me and my friend butter chicken, and then he cooked him and my husband steak, lobster, and shrimp. He's a fantastic. If you ever want anything grilled, he's fantastic. He's incredible. And my husband's a great cook, but this guy is phenomenal. So went and did that and spent some time with them. So yeah, that was pretty much my weekend. How was yours?
It was good. I was not around in Denver. I was up in Winter Park Fraser is like 5 minutes outside of there. So I was buzzing around on Trestle, a downhill bike park. I don't know if we have any bikers other than John is a biker. I'm
John
trying
is a
to do
biker. Yeah.
suspension, like a new, like a little stiffer. It's a different setup. I was trying that. You know what? During this is kind of random. During the interview with John, I remembered something. It's like slipped my mind. I was behind this guy on a trail, and we were going like we were moving, like we were going pretty fast. It wasn't, it's not like a double black or not even a black. It was just like a intermediate trail. So just like hill, just ups and downs, and there's some trees on either side. By the way, I did not hit a tree. There's some trees on either side. There's some rocks, whatever. It's not a gnarly trail by any means. This guy tried to do a manual, which is a wheelie without pedaling. So you're just bouncing on your back tire. I don't know. He's just trying to do it like whatever. Okay. So I'm behind. I'm the last person. There's three people total. I'm the last person, and I like to give the person in front of me some space, just because I won't use my brakes. I'll just basically just go full speed. The guy in front of me, I see slow down. So like we're buzzing through this trail through the trees and everything, and I see the guy in front of me. He was wearing a red shirt, and I see this shirt like stop. Like you're not supposed to stop on the trail. And then this bike in front of him, as I got closer, was like tumbling, bump, 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 bump. It was so the guy in the very, very front spot had crashed, and he was trying to do this wheelie. And the guy in front of me, the guy in the middle, was helping him up. And I moved the bike. So I was standing guard so that if anybody was behind me, I would flag them down like, yo, stop, 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 stop. We had a crash, stop the trail. Nobody behind me came. And it turns out the guy was trying to do this manual, a wheelie without pedaling. And when his front end went down, when the front wheel hit the ground, he hit a rock, I think he said, and then he flipped over, crashed. He holds his hand up. He's like, "Oh, dude, my hand!" And his thumb was
Oh no, no,
broke his
no, no,
thumb.
no,
Yeah, he broke his
no,
so his thumb
no,
was like down. I was
no.
like, "Whoa, okay,
Stop.
you got to get down off the mountain, dude. Like you got to get to the ER." And he just crashed, right? So your adrenaline is gone, and we were going pretty fast, so his hands were shaking. Like, yo, okay, like here, hop back on the bike. We'll steer your bad hand if we have to, but I'll stand guard in the very back. I'll guard anybody behind us so they don't run into us. So let's go down to the gondola and we'll just buzz you down. So he's like, actually, he's like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, dude, like just chill. We go down. Luckily, there's a gondola. We're like in the middle of a mountain. There's a gondola to go to the very, very top. There's two gondolas on this mountain, and we're like in the middle part. So they buzzed him down, and hopefully he was all right. He was very like coherent. I don't think
Yeah,
he's
but
just in shock.
shock is one of those things that you just.
I don't know if he was in shock. Like I don't think my buddies when I crashed, when I tore my shoulder and like broke my hand and all that. I don't think I was in shock. I don't think he was in shock. He knew he was hurt. He's like, oh, he's just like, all right, dude,
Yeah.
we got to get you off. So that's kind of rattling, when you see that on the trail. And it was so simple. It was something so simple too. And it just, if you're an adult, you need your thumb. So yeah, hopefully he's all right.
Oh, ugh.
Yeah, and then we took the gondola up, myself and the other guy. So rider number two, there's three of us. Rider number two, we just buzzed to the top, and I was like, dude, what happened? And he goes, dude, all of a sudden he just flips over, and we just had to help him up. So
Ugh.
that happened. That was on was I riding Thursday or Friday? I think it was Friday. So yeah, got in some pretty good laps, getting the speed back, feel really good. I'm probably going to go up there tomorrow during the day. So yeah,
Nice.
getting the speed back just from last season. I hadn't been on the bike in a couple of weeks, so it's good. It felt good and smooth, because you're supposed to go really fast,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was good to get the speed back, and yeah, I came back. It was not in the Denver heat, thank goodness gracious, or have to deal with a Florida heat.
Yeah, it's been special. We keep getting advisories every day.
Ugh.
So I don't know. I just before we went live with John, we were talking about how he enjoys chaos, and he was talking about like weather or something like that. And I kind of understood what he meant by that, but I will say I cannot wait for a torrential thunderstorm. Like, I keep checking the weather to see what day are we getting this storm, because normally it's going to break, right, at some point. But this has been like days and days of nothing but this oppressive heat. I ended up with a migraine on Saturday because the heat was just crazy, despite literally being on a boat in a bathing suit and in the water and drinking. Like, I'm very good at like staying hydrated. It's just miserable out there. It's not a fun time. So I did watch the Grand Prix. Did you watch the Grand Prix?
My girlfriend did. Yeah, we put it on in the condo, and we watched some of it. We went to a really cool distillery. It's awesome because we're like, we're in the condo, and we're away. Like the villages, we're like, I don't know, the main village of Winter Park. We're maybe 4 miles outside. I think 5 miles outside of it, so it's not as busy. And there's a public transit like walking distance, so we just hopped on, and it took us like 10 minutes to this distillery.
Oh, that's nice.
So after that, when we came back, she put on some highlights from the race.
I don't think my boy's going to get this championship this year. I don't want to sound defeatist, but I just don't see it happening. So,
Who's your boy?
Lando. But McLaren will most certainly win the World Constructors' Championship, and most certainly will be 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship. It's just a question of which one.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. But that's about it. That was my weekend. So, and then school goes back in 2 weeks. So.
Oh, yeah. It's already the end of July.
It's been a crazy, crazy summer. So that's it, I guess. Listen, everybody enjoy this episode. Everybody go check out Jon Cheney. You can find him on LinkedIn. He said he's on almost every other platform too. So Facebook. Excuse my dog. I don't know what she's doing. I think he said Facebook. He sometimes posts on Twitter, but not that
Instagram.
often. He's on LinkedIn. He posts regularly on LinkedIn. He has his own website. He's just, yeah.
He's doing things.
Probably one of my most favorite guests so far. So, but we'll be back next week with a whole new episode and a whole new guest. So tune in for that. And in the meantime, stay cool, because I'm desperately trying over here. Hello, and welcome back to episode 4 of the Code AI podcast with me, Kaz, and my annoying co-host, Charlie, over there. We are lucky that we have another special guest on this week's episode. We have Jon Cheney, who we will describe as a serial entrepreneur. I do love cereal. Do you do? Yeah. I watched the clip on your LinkedIn post where the founder of Replit had mentioned you, and he labeled you as a serial entrepreneur. And I thought, well, that sounds like a good title to be giving you. So we'll go with that. So we're here. We're going to have a chat with Jon, and we're going to talk obviously all things AI. We're going to talk about his journey into AI, and we're definitely going to hit the highlight, which was where the founder of Replit discussed how quickly you were able to build the app using their website. Because I looked at their website, I learned what they did, and then I had seen the clip that you had posted on your LinkedIn, and I was like, he did what? How quickly? And what? So it's fascinating to me. So we're going to dive all into that, and then just some other general topics that we can talk about, because you definitely have a lot of experience with AI. So we did briefly talk offline, but I did want to talk about this. We talked about your journey a little bit and how you are an entrepreneur and have been really since you were a teenager. So was there anything specific that kind of sparked that for you? I know lots of people, they'll say like, oh, me going and doing this particular career, I definitely felt was a calling, or I didn't want to work for somebody else. Was there something even at that young age where you were like, I'm just going to go and do my own thing and see what I can create and come up with?
Most certainly. And that's my father. And before I dive into that, first of all, super happy to be on here, Kaz and Charlie. Really excited to hopefully share a few things that can help listeners, maybe demystify AI a little bit. And to be more specific, you mentioned I was a serial entrepreneur. I think that probably means I'm a glutton for punishment.
Definitely.
Yeah. Entrepreneur is hard. But I really like to view myself in the AI world as an entrepreneurial AI teacher, right? I understand, like I've been there and done it. I've gone and raised, tens of millions of dollars and done it I don't know, call it the hard way. And I would call AI now, cheat mode, right? Easy mode in some ways. In other ways, there's certainly plenty to tackle. But anyway, excited that I can be here. And again, I've been an entrepreneur really my whole life. My dad, I remember my dad telling me when I was probably about 12 years old, he said, "Son, you're never going to get ahead in life working for somebody else." Right. Just that, I remember that phrase very, very specifically. And he said, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to own the company, but you need to be in control of your earnings. Right. And so he taught me how to sell. Right. He said, you got to be able to, if you sell something, you're going to get paid for it. If you sell two of those things, you're going to get paid for both of those things. Right. You got to put yourself in a position where you can really control. If you work harder, you make more money. Right. If you're, no offense to other types of employees, hourly and if you're a marketer, right, or a graphic artist, or whatever it is, and you're on a salary, if you work hard or if you're lazy, you kind of get the same paycheck every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But as a sales rep, you can have a small month or you can have a huge month and triple your earnings if you just work hard. And so at the age of about 8 years old, I think was my first sales experience that I remember, where my sister and I, well, my parents obviously helped us, but my sister and I, she's 2 years younger than me, we went door to door and sold mistletoe. I'm from Houston, Texas, and mistletoe grows on trees there. It's way up high, way by these big bushels that are, like you're huge, you can barely pick it up with both arms as an adult, right? You go up, you climb up, you tie a little rope to it so it doesn't fall and break. And then you chop it and kind of just lower it down. And then we broke it up in little pieces, put them in Ziploc bags, printed off a little, message on some red paper around Christmas time. And, here's mistletoe, whatever. Probably looked it up in the encyclopedia because the internet didn't really exist back then when we were doing
big. Remember, you all had the big books you had to renew them every few years.
We had to pull the M out and look up mistletoe. Anyway, we wrote something cool down on it and then just went door to door. And who's going to say no to 6 and 8 year old selling mistletoe for $5 door to door, right? And so anyway, we had some people say no, but most people. So I learned, hey, wow, I can go around and people have money, and if I provide value, they'll give me that money, right? And so that just continued on through high school and all that stuff. But bottom line is, I started my first companies, actual companies as a teenager in high school, and then did it through college. It took me 8 years to graduate college, not because I didn't love college or I was failing, but I just took time to build businesses and to do things on my own, and eventually did graduate. And then, I actually, what was interesting, I'll say this one more thing on this before we move on, but I took an entrepreneurship lecture series, right, at BYU, which is where I went to school, and really smart entrepreneurs would come in every week and talk to us and just tell us their story and give us advice and things like that, right? And out of the probably 10 people that came in that semester, I bet 8 of them said, don't start a business right out of college. Don't go right to entrepreneurship. Go work for someone. I don't care how long you do it. Do it for a year. Do it for 3 years. Go work for someone. Learn how a business works. Learn what you don't like. Even if it's a bad business, great. Now you know what you don't want to do. Maybe it's a great one and you have a good mentor and someone to look up to. Go work for someone else. Figure it out, and then you'll identify your problem and go do it. But if you try to jump right into entrepreneurship right out of school, you're going to miss so many things, and you're going to have so many blind spots, and that's going to cause some problems. Now with AI today, you can maybe potentially fill in some of those blind spots, some of those gaps, if you know how to ask the question. So anyway.
Yeah. Framing the questions and giving it the correct information is a hurdle. But I also think that comes with, that's what you just have to kind of learn that. And also I found this myself personally, is if I don't really know what I want, there's no way I can possibly get, say ChatGPT or Manus or whatever to give me what I want, because I don't really know what I want. So sometimes it's more of a exploratory conversation, and then I can kind of hone in more of, what you want. But your prompt is really crucial, I think, a lot of the times. But
it's really critical. Let's say you're developing software, right? I mean, we're here because of a story about Replit, which is developing software.
Yeah.
Let's say you develop software and you just go launch it, right? And you don't think, okay, well, I wonder if there's any cybersecurity holes here, right? Maybe someone can hack the system, right? Then you're leaving yourself open to a data breach. That's not cool. People don't want their passwords and their usernames and their birth dates and their emails, whatever system and information. First of all, don't store anyone's information if you don't have to. But
right.
If you don't think to say, hey, Replit, or hey, Lovable, or hey, whatever system you're using out there to code, and you just leave these holes open, it's your fault, right? So you kind of need to know what you don't know. And obviously use AI to do that. And you say, hey, I'm about to deploy this app. What should I be thinking about? What should I be worried about? Right? You just got to think to ask that question. And if you do, AI can guide you through to do just incredible things that you might have no idea how to do cybersecurity. But that's okay. Guess what? Guess who does? All of the AIs that can help you out.
100%. Yeah.
So, John, tell us about GenAIPI. Like, tell us about the idea, how you got the idea, how you built it. From our understanding, it was over a weekend.
Yeah.
Which is badass. It sounds like you and I are kind of similar in terms of being like obsessive, like not even seeing an obstacle, just like blinders on.
Just
I'm
go.
getting this done. Yeah, I'm going to put in 5 orders of Uber Eats and just like sit down and just like bang this out.
Yeah, you know what? I love people like that. I am definitely like that. When I get an idea in my head, I follow it through, right? I am, we were talking a little bit earlier just offline about how I enjoy chaos. I also am definitely a little bit OCD, right? I'm not so OCD that like I have to make sure that everything's straight. Like, although you might see me just occasionally, I'll move something on my desk and probably like line it up so the angle's right. So I've got a little bit of that in me, right? But yeah, when I start something, I got to finish it. Right. Like if, my wife is cooking in the kitchen and, she starts doing the dishes or whatever. And then she just stops with like 2 left. I was like, but no, we have to finish it. And I have to go up and finish it. Right. It would just, if you start it, you got to finish it. So yeah, definitely the process of building GenAIPI was pretty fun. To go just a tiny bit backwards. In 2016, I started my first kind of big startup. Right. So that was that 9 years ago. I was, I guess, 30 years old and raised $13 million for that. Ended up, the highest valuation at which we raised was $130 million valuation and ended up selling back in 2023. Not for that amount. We kind of rode a wave up and then sold it on the way down and we did fine. But I didn't get incredibly wealthy from that. But I certainly did very well and well enough that I was able to then say, okay, what do I want to do next? And I started doing some consulting and I've always loved cutting edge tech. And so AI and consulting and cutting edge tech, that just kind of all came together at the right time back in 2023. That's when it really started. That's kind of when ChatGPT was launched, was kind of end of 2022, I think, if my timeline is correct.
Yeah.
And I was one of those first on the wait list type people. Like, I want to try this. And as soon as I started using it, I just said, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And so I started working with companies, helping them in different ways. And I'd use AI to, look like I could do so much, to just help in basic business processes and strategy documents and all these different things. And had to deal with all the growing pains of AI, hallucinations, and all those different things, and limits, context limits, and knowledge limits. And remember when ChatGPT used to only know things that were like 2 years old? And anyway,
yeah,
we just talked about that in the last podcast we did about how it could only give you up to a certain date of information.
And still, even you have to be very specific and you have to say, hey, search the web for this. And, I want today's information. By the way, today is July 29th. You even sometimes have to be very explicit in saying, okay, I need you to search the web and figure that out. So anyway, I'm an entrepreneur and serial entrepreneurs, like I said, we're gluttons for punishment, but we just have ideas. I've got tons of ideas that I want to do. I could tell you 10 business ideas right now that I think are awesome. But one idea that I wanted to start was this app called Echoes. And I love to travel. I've been to about, 40 countries or so. I speak a few languages and I just love to get around, love to take my family and do that. And I also love to share. People, when they go travel, they want to share and, hey, look at this cool experience I had and whatever. But I'll run into someone and they'll say, hey, have you ever been to Israel? I'm like, yeah, I have. Let me show you some pictures. Then I'm like, man, where am I going to find those? That was back in like 2011. Maybe it's on Amazon Photos, or maybe it's on some old hard drive, or maybe it's in my Google Drive. Where is it exactly? Right. And you can potentially go on Facebook and try to scroll back and find some random album, or maybe like scroll for 20 minutes on Instagram and get back to where, you might find a picture or two. But I was like, man, it'd be so nice if there was like a map interface, like a pinboard, where I could just, here's where I've traveled, right? Here's John's map. Here's Kaz's map. Here's Charlie's map. And then I could just click on Israel on the map and, hey, there's that's when I went. And here's my, the date that I went here. And here's the things that I did. And here's the people I went with. And here's the stories. Here's the cool places I ate. So I thought it'd be cool to build an app like that. And so I found a dev shop I contacted a dev shop I had worked with in the past out in Ukraine and basically said, hey, what would it take to do an MVP? This is probably like August, September last year. So maybe about a year ago. And I got a quote back for $105,000. And okay, not surprising. That was kind of how it worked. And that day, literally that day, I saw somebody post something about this cool program called Replit that could build software, right? It was some VC out in California that said, "Hey, I just watched a founder whip up an MVP in like 10 minutes with Replit." I'm like, "What do you mean? That's crazy." And so I went straight to replit.com and I looked at it, I was like, "This is crazy." I immediately signed up for the annual plan before I put one prompt in. I just was like, I know this is going to be awesome. I need to try this. And it's $240 back then. I think it's a little more expensive now, but it's still unbelievably cheap compared to what I was ready to spend. I was ready to drop 100 grand. And here's what I did. I took the diagrams and the plans and the outlines and everything that this dev shop had done for me for free, just to like quote me. And I dragged it into Replit and I said, go. Right. And all of a sudden I had a working app, 20 hours later. Now I had to do some work and some prompting and stuff, but all of a sudden, within 20 minutes, I had a website up. I was like, what the heck? This is crazy. This kind of looks like it should work. And then, obviously it takes a lot more work. You got to go in and really massage it and bring all the features to life. But anyway, I was hooked, right? And so I started working with other companies and showing other people how to do this. And then in February of this year, about 5 months ago, I also post to LinkedIn every day. I'm religious about it. I, very disciplined about it. I post every single day, at least once, usually twice, sometimes 5 times if I have a lot to say. Which actually isn't good. It's not good to post 5 times on LinkedIn. Nobody sees it, but I just want to say it out loud. So anyway, I write a lot and I don't use AI to do my posts, by the way. It's all coming out of my twisted brain. But I just said, hey, you know what? I've got an idea. I wonder if I can start a business this morning, right? It was this Thursday morning, February 27th. And then can I build a piece of software and get my first customer tomorrow, right? Can I start today and get my first customer, 48 hours, within 48 hours, right? And, obviously I'd raised millions of dollars before, not because I wanted to make lots of money, but because I wanted to build software and I didn't know how to build software. So I had to pay people to do that. So I had to go raise money to even prove that my idea even had any merit. It was back in 2016, right? Anyway, long story short, I worked about 12 hours that day on that Thursday. I posted about it on LinkedIn. Tons of people followed, said, "Ooh, I want to follow. Let's see if you can do this." Mostly they probably want to just watch me fall on my face because people enjoy those kind of stories. And Friday, woke up, got back to work, and stayed up till about 3 a.m. Friday night. I worked all day. I didn't stop. I didn't move from where you're seeing me sit right here. And I said, you know what? I don't have Stripe set up. I don't have my payment set up. It's not quite done. I'm like, it's okay. And I posted. I said, you know what? I'm good. What I've built is incredible. Can't wait to show you guys. Anyway, Saturday, spent another maybe 7 or 8 hours and finished it, right? Ready to go. And so total of probably 30 to 35 hours over 3 days, right? It was done, ready to go. Turned on some Facebook ads and launched it. And then Sunday, I don't work on Sundays, took that day off, and Monday morning woke up and said, all right, let's see how much money I've made. All right, let's see if anyone's signed up. And I had 130 people that had clicked on the link on the ad. So the ads worked. They drove people to the site. And I just ran it on, Meta, right? So Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But I had no sales. I was like, what the heck? And I went through my site and I clicked on, purchase, checkout, all this stuff, and I found an error in the Stripe that I had missed. I had it working, but then I did another change and then I redeployed it, and there was just a little error that it wasn't grabbing the product properly. It was a stupid little thing that was really, really easy to fix once I discovered it. And so I said, okay, I still am in the middle of this challenge. I wanted to get my first customer by, one day after. Now I've had a weekend and now I'm kind of on my third day. But hey, I'm a sales guy. I know how to sell. I started selling at age 8 and I know how to do this. So I just jumped on LinkedIn and I started messaging a few business owners. I said, hey, I want to come teach you guys how to use AI. Right. And because that was my idea. I'll talk about what GenAIPI does. Right. And I got somebody to agree to a call and jumped on and had a $15,000 contract. Right. So within, 5 days, 5 calendar days, 3 or 4 business days, I had my first customer. And then over the next 30 days, I was over 6 figures. Right. And that has continued. And so my idea at GenAIPI, I really saw, I'd already been doing some consulting and I already knew that most people had no idea what was going on with AI, and their understanding of AI was, ChatGPT's, the new Google, and you kind of do searches.
You mean me? Literally me.
And yeah. And
literally me.
I saw that opportunity. I said, okay, I want to help train companies. If I'm going into a company, I first need to baseline. I need to figure out how much they know. So I need an assessment. Then I need to have some training. And then when they're done, I bet they'll like to say they're AI certified. So I'll make a certification. And a little bit of my background before I started my company in 2016, I was in the education tech space. And so I kind of had been around a lot of these certifying organizations like the ACT or the ACTFL or the TOEFL language tests and whatever. I said, you know what? The ACT at some point only had one customer in their first test, and that's how all businesses start. And so I made mine very official, right? And that was my approach. The General AI Proficiency Institute, and it was GenAIPI.org, right? And anyway, so it was all very on purpose and built to be kind of professional feeling and professional looking, even though it was just me, right? It was just me, in my proverbial basement, even though I'm on the top four here. But anyway, so it was just me, and I knew how to be an entrepreneur. And I said, hey, look, I'm not afraid of going out and selling and making this happen. And I learned, I had to pivot. My original hypothesis was I was going to be training individuals that wanted to know, how good am I at AI? I need to get training, and now I can throw this on my resume and I can use this to stay ahead in the marketplace. Turned out that my real market, the bastard to money market for me was, hey, let's talk to the CEOs and tell them about all the advantages and benefits of AI. And I can sell them on that all day long, and they'll just train their whole workforce all at once. And I'll sell, 100 people at once instead of one at a time individually through ads. So anyway, so that's where I've landed. And I work with a lot of companies, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and everybody in between.
So that was your first, I say big build, right? With Replit, what the story just told us now. So
I don't know if that was my first big build. I would say Echoes was that travel app was the first.
Oh, okay. That was the
and I had done some other things, but this was the first one that I said, okay, I'm going to really push this out in the public fast and try to get customers fast and prove that I could be making money with these things I was building in Replit.
So instead of that costing the project you were talking about costing $105,000 dollars, you realized it would cost you basically a weekend of your time at that point.
Didn't really quite realize. I hadn't quite done that math in my head at the time. I didn't, when I was done, I sat down and I said, okay, ChatGPT, you got to tell me about this. Like, let's go through a model here. And I actually modeled it out because the thing that was a little bit, maybe more involved with GenAIPI was it wasn't just a piece of software that you just subscribed to. It also had a curriculum. And it had testing strategies and certifications, all these different things that you'd have to pay for separately. And then all the modules, all the admin systems, all the administration of all of that stuff. And so I, having just, raised money and sold a company, I knew what it cost to pay developers and how you run a company and all this stuff. And I did the math. And I think it would have taken me, without AI, me and a team, it would have taken us about 18 months to launch what I did in 3 days. And over that 18 months, we would have accrued roughly $3.2 million of cost. And I was able to do the entire thing for less than $400.
So that's incredible. So when you break it down like that and you realize what you've just achieved in that weekend span and $400, is that the point at which you're like, all right, and you just go? You just, all of the ideas that you may have ever had that maybe have been cost prohibitive, or you just weren't sure if they were even worth spending that kind of investment because you just didn't know at the end of it all whether it was even going to be something. Is that the point at which you're like, I'm just going to literally throw spaghetti at the wall now? I've had all of these ideas. I know I can use something Replit or something equivalent to at least try and build it. Is that time? Is that like the jumping off point for you? Where you're like, I'm just going to do it.
The one advantage, or I don't know, is the disadvantage, just a fact, right? I know how hard it is to build a startup. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's not just about having that software. It's not just about having the product. What was so eye-opening to me, and what I just started singing from the rooftops from my LinkedIn, wall, was entrepreneurship has changed forever, right? Mm-hmm. It used to be that it was limited to people who had the rich uncle, or you saved a ton of money for years, or you go and you raise a bunch of money, which is, by the way, super stressful. It's the worst part of entrepreneurship. And as CEO of a company that raised $13 million, I can tell you at least 50% of my time over that span of 8 years was spent raising money. Easily 50% of my time. And that's not cool. That's not pursuing the mission that I was trying to accomplish, or working with the people and building cool stuff and getting customers and selling to the people that I wanted to sell to. I was having to sell to, people in their ivory towers, right? And that just wasn't as fun. And so spending all that time, again, I was I was held back from lots of ideas, like my Echoes app or my language app that I have and my other things and this music thing I want to do and all this different stuff, all these cool ideas I had, because it's $100,000. It's $100,000 a pop, right? And most people don't have that. Even an exited entrepreneur, I'm still looking at that saying, okay, well, I can do that a few times, but I'm not going to do that 20 times. Like,
Right.
There's no way I'm going to go start 20 different things. And so anyway, long story short, I really just started taking a lot of time writing about it, writing blogs, writing articles, posting, talking to people, working with companies, and trying to say, look, guys, you can do anything now. AI allows you to do your own legal work to a certain extent, right? Asterisks, right? But you can do your own legal work, your own software development, your own marketing, your own accounting, your own strategy, your own whatever, and you can draw from all of the books that I have on my bookshelf over there, right? Without having to actually sit down and read it all. Now, I can have, I can argue both sides of this very easily, right? Like, is that smart to dive into places you might not understand? And I would say depends, right? But the bottom line is things like Replit, companies like Replit and tools like Replit allow anybody, right? I have 4 kids, ages 8 to almost 13. All of them, down to the 8-year-old, can build software now. Why? Because they can speak English. Because they can speak.
Yeah.
That's the language of AI. By the way, if they spoke Spanish, they could still build it. If they want to speak Morse code, they could still build it, because AI understands all of those things. It doesn't matter what language you speak to it. It can take that and interpret it and change it into outcomes, right? And so the only place my 8-year-old would struggle is, he's not going to know to ask that cybersecurity question. And he doesn't know all this stuff. But what he does know is how maybe a video game works. A video game has a start screen, and it has a new game button and a save game button and a quit. And when I push the W key, I go forward. And when I do this, right? And so he could literally just say, hey, make me a game where I do this, 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 and this. And if I push the space bar, I jump and I go and I collect these things. All he has to be able to do is describe it. Heck, he doesn't even have to be able to type, although he can, but he could just turn on the voice and just dictate, here's what I want the game to do. And AI does this. Oh, hey, now let's make it do this. Hey, let's add this feature. And it just does it, right? And as long as you know what tools to use, you can do anything. Anyone can do anything.
So with that in mind, that bar is being lowered, and having that obsessive mindset, I think, is an advantage. Kaz thinks I'm crazy. What would you tell vibe coders and builders listening? How do they just not go insane? Like what can they do? Can they go outside? Can they, if you're in Utah, do you mountain bike? Do you, how do you just release all that tension in your brain and not go insane?
For me, it feels like a video game. Vibe coding feels like a video game to me. I have an objective. My objective is I want this button to do this, right? And so it might not sound as fun as, trying to get to that other side of the base or whatever, right? I don't play a ton of video games anymore. When I do play video games these days, I will play factory building games. That's what it's kind of this puzzle thing. I like puzzles, right? And a factory building game, Kaz is like, what does that mean? But so usually the scenario is something like this. You land, your spaceship lands on a planet. You're an astronaut and you're the only survivor, but you've got this cool tool that can scan for minerals. And then you can find copper, and then you find some silver, and you find some titanium or whatever, right? And you take it back to your ship and you use its little thing to create, a box, right? And then you can then you can find more recipes and unlock things. Now you can create a conveyor belt, and now you can create a little factory that turns, or a little smelter that turns copper into copper plates. And anyway, eventually you build this massive factory of all these ins and outs, and you build yourself a spaceship to go home, right? That's kind of the general, there's probably about 50 games out there that follow that line of thinking. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that kind of a feeling of progressing and getting further along. And so when I'm building now a piece of software, it's very similar, right? I start with, hey, here's just kind of a wireframe. And now I'm going to get my login functionality to work. Okay. And so I'm going to go down this. Hey, boom, I just succeeded with that. Now I'm going to get, my core functionality that I wanted this app to do to work, right? Maybe with that Echoes thing that, my digital pin board, right? Now my digital pin board works and I can see where I've traveled. And hey, now I can click on a pin and I can add more details to that, right? And so I'm just constantly, it's like digging shafts in a mine, right? I'm just digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until I'm done. And anyway, so it feels like a game. And so to me, the unwinding is for me, I have to hit like a milestone, right? Oh, I finally got that system to work. And then, yeah, I'm going to get up. I'm a whitewater kayaker. I love mountain biking. I am in Utah. The mountains are amazing.
Yes.
I'm out doing whatever I can. I've got a disc golf course on my 5-acre little farm
Oh,
here.
cool. Do you do
Little,
downhill mountain biking by chance?
absolutely.
You do? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just in Trestle over
Yeah.
the weekend here in
That's
Denver, so it's an hour and a half away.
so cool.
Are you near Virgin, Utah, by chance? Or where the
So Virgin,
Red Bull
Virgin's a
hardline
little
is?
further south, closer to St. George, probably three hours from where I am right now. So I'm up closer to Salt Lake Provo area. In a little,
Okay.
it's called West Mountain, little bunch of little ranches out here, farming community. I can see civilization right about 20 minutes that way. So I'm only
Okay.
15 minutes from a Costco, but it's
Mm.
beautiful out here. It's quiet and
So,
peaceful.
Kaz,
I also think the advantage that you have over Charlie is that you do have a family. And so that is an element of, if, for example, you were holed
I'm
up
not
in
married
your...
for context.
Yeah, for
I'm not like an
context.
orphan or like,
Yeah.
she may sound like I was
He
like
doesn't have a
I
wife,
got
he
it.
doesn't
I
have
got it.
kids.
Yeah,
You have a
like-
wife and kids. I have a husband and kids. So you, like, if you were holed up in your room there for too long, I feel like either your wife would make you come out and get some air and some dinner, or a kid would need something. Charlie, on the other hand, did not leave his home for possibly weeks on end. I was like, you need to go outside, you need to get some groceries, you need to do this. And he's like, oh, DoorDash, Uber Eats. The man did not leave his house. He gets so entrenched in something that there is no off button. So when you were referring to the fact like you had a goal, and then once that goal was hit, you could be done for the day, spend time with your family, come back tomorrow, you've got another goal to hit. He doesn't operate in that scale whatsoever. It's just constant. And with no wife and children around, it was
So,
bad.
I think it's really healthy to stop, right? You have so I'm a composer as well, a pianist, right? And I love writing music. And oftentimes, if I were to just say, okay, I want to go write a new song right now, I would go sit down at the piano and I would just start, I don't know, playing around with things. And what I'll do is kind of weird. It might sound kind of weird, but I will come up with something like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And I'll play it again. I'll play it again. I'll play it maybe 3 or 4 times. And then I will get up from the piano and I'll step away. Right. And I'll go grab some water. I'll go walk outside for 10 minutes, whatever. And then I'll come back and I'll sit down. And then I'll try it again and I'll see if I can remember it. And if it's really good, it will stick with me because I'll be whistling it, humming it, and it'll draw me back to the piano. If I don't remember it, then I'm like, yeah, it wasn't that great, And I kind of just let the idea kind of go away. But when you step away, your mind gets clearer. If you're just stuck in it all the time, you don't get those shower aha moments, right? How many good ideas do you have in the shower? It's like, oh, I've got this figured out, right? You gotta just say, all right, I've done this, and I know I have a list of 45 other things that I need to get to work, right? But that's okay. I'm going to step away. I'm going to go eat. I'm going to go watch a TV show for 30 minutes, go watch an episode of something, and just do something else, and then stand up and be like, okay, am I being pulled back to this? And if so, what is the next thing that I need to be pulled back into? Right.
Yeah. Charlie, you don't.
I'm just go.
No way. I'm just going.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I was learning how to code, and I didn't go to boot camp or anything. So I'm just doing it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like here's a div, here's an H1. And then it's like, here's how to make a website. And then you make it and you're like, I think I can do that. I have this idea for this. I think I can make that. And then you make it. And then you just, to me, it's like slowly, like you're literally learning how to do it. And then it's like, okay, you can make a website. And I wonder if you can get people there. Then you learn SEO. And then, that's kind of where we went. So
I love it.
I want to go back a little bit. I know we've talked about Replit a lot, but this question is going to lead you to another question. When you said you did like echoes, when did you do echoes with Replit? Like 2000 and...
Yeah, it was last year. It was last year.
Oh, last year.
2024. So it would have been late 2024.
So even since you built that, even since last year, have you seen the evolution of Replit and what the change that's been able to do just even since you built Echoes like last year? Has it been quite dramatic?
Absolutely. It's incredible how fast AI changes, right? And one of the cool things about Replit is just a brilliant business model, right? There's this concept of surfing versus swimming that's coined by a good friend of mine who's about to publish a book on it. His name is Jeremy Witt, really, really awesome guy. And the idea of surfing is as the technology that you're built on, that your business is built on, gets better, does your business get better? If so, then you're surfing, right? If AI gets better and you're built on AI, then as AI gets better, you're going to get better, right? Now, if you're competing with it and trying to do something else, as AI gets better, you get left behind. Now you're swimming, right? You want to surf, don't swim. And that's the name of the book. Go to surfdon'tswim.com. You can check it out. Anyway, so Replit is surfing, right? Because as the general AI market just improves, then they're going to get better, right? I mean, just seeing the jumps from Claude, right? Which Replit has nothing to do with Claude. They're not investing in Claude, right? Claude's investing billions of dollars in, Anthropic's investing billions of dollars in making Claude better, right? And Replit just has to sit back and say, okay, this is awesome. Right now, obviously, Replit's doing a lot more than that. They're adding new features. They're adding security scanners and element selectors and different things. And just they're doing really cool things that make it easier to build with. But ultimately, they're just going to keep getting better because other people are investing so much money. And not only that, they follow that same pathway and strategy with all of their things. Like, for example, if you use the internal database feature with Replit, well, it's just built on Neon, right? It's another system. It's another startup they're investing their money and raising tons of money, whatever. And Replit just says, hey, we're just going to charge you a little bit more for that, right? We pay $1. We're going to charge you $1.25, right? And that's Replit's business model, right? We're just going to build this nice interface that pulls it all together. And I actually love it. I don't mind paying $1.25 for that Neon database because it's there. And I can just push a button and it's built in, it's convenient. And I'm paying for that convenience. And I'm still only paying $20. Like, it's ridiculous how cheap it is to do all these different things inside of Replit. But one of the things that Replit has done so well that I think they've done better than anyone else is you never have to leave that platform if you don't want to. Now, obviously, there's plenty of APIs that you can pull in other stuff, whether your ESPN API or a weather API or a SendGrid API or Stripe API. There's plenty of ways you can bring other things in, but you've got your auto scaling deployment and you've got your databases and you've got your agents and your assistants and all of these different tools right inside there. You don't have to learn Supabase. You don't have to learn these other things. And not that those things are bad, right? But for your average Joe, like John, like me, I don't know that stuff, right? Now I can learn it. I'm very capable. I'm a very capable learner, as are most people. But it's much easier to just say, hey, I need a database. Boom, right? Now, I have one advantage. One reason why I was able to build really well very quickly inside of Replit, I'm not a coder. I don't know how to write one line of code. I know what an H1 is. I know a couple little basic things. But I was a tech CEO, and I paid a lot of people a lot of money to come in and teach me about tech and to build tech. And I'm someone who's not just like, okay, go build it. I'm like, why are you building it that way? I've had that question. I've asked that question of my really smart CTOs and VPs of engineering and other developers. Tell me how this system works. Oh, well, there's this database and there's Kubernetes here and there's this there. So I just kind of understood the language of coding, and I got pretty good in sitting in meetings looking at whiteboard architecture. So I'm like, okay, I know how this all fits together, right? So my brain kind of already had that puzzle piece figured out. And so then being able to sit down and say, okay, I know that you need to do this, this, and this in order for this to work. So tell me your plan for this. And okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do that, right? So I just have a little bit of an advantage there. And so actually when I teach, so one of the really popular things I do with GenAIPI is I teach this course called How to Build a Business in a Weekend with AI, right? Because I had people asking me, how'd you do that? And I wasn't planning on teaching this course when I first started the business, but a lot of people just asked for it. And I said, okay, why not? And now I've taught hundreds of people how to do it. But part of the course actually is a little mini coding boot camp, right? I teach them about how to architect and what is a post or a get, what are APIs and what are these different things and how do they fit together? And just that little bit of understanding that most people don't really understand helps, right? As long as if you're a developer, it's basics, right? But if you're, a Kaz, right? No offense, right? But just someone who just has never been in that world, right? Then, man, 10, 15 minutes of just understanding basic architecture and code and being able to have the vocabulary around building software. And all of a sudden you're pretty dangerous. You can do pretty amazing things.
I also, this isn't my next question. It was more of an observation when I was thinking about what you were saying. But I also think a lot of it is like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So say you have a business that you think works pretty effectively, and your productivity levels are fine. I think there's a lot of an element of not being able to, if you don't really understand AI and you don't understand the tools out there, you don't really know what AI can do to your business, what it can bring into your business, and what tools you even need. So having somebody who's got like a vast experience like you do, be able to come in and identify, oh, with this particular side of your business or this role or this department, you literally could use this and eliminate, hours of time or something. So I think a lot of it's also having that kind of understanding of exactly how useful, it could be to your business.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think my students really appreciate from my teaching. It's probably a little bit different than a lot of other, there's a lot of people that are smarter in AI. They can build an LLM custom and do all this stuff, whatever. I know how to use all the tools to do all that, right? But what I do know is entrepreneurship.
Right.
And so I teach entrepreneurship at 100x the speed, at 100th the cost, right? $3.2 million to $400, whatever that math is, 99.9996 reduction, whatever it is, right? And instead of a year and a half, it's only 3 days, right? And so, but yeah, you have the marketing and the business and the sales and you got to come up with a good strategy. You have to have go-to-market strategy and pricing. And one of the things that I want to say here to anybody that's vibe coding is I think a lot of vibe coders don't think about those things enough when they're building their software. They just say, I have a functionality in mind. Here's what I want it to do. Before you write one line of code or ask AI to write one line of code, you better have a 5-page business plan. Mm-hmm. Use AI to build it. Use ChatGPT, use whatever the heck you want to build it. But make sure that you understand, here's how much I'm going to charge. Here's my unique selling proposition. Here's where I'm differentiated from the market. Here's my go-to market strategy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you've thought it all out. And you can do that in an hour on ChatGPT, right? Just have it help you build a business plan and have it interview you, have it ask you questions, right? Tell it everything, make it yours, but have ChatGPT organize it. Then take that business plan and drop it into Replit as part of your things, and then create an MD file that says businessplan.md, and then tell your replit.md file to reference the businessplan.md file as it continues to grow. So now as Claude is sitting there thinking about your business or your software, it's thinking about your software in the context of the business plan.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of developers, or smart developers, right, forget, like, oh my gosh, I have to tell it why. Because if you don't tell it why, it's going to fill in the gaps with its own crazy ideas, right? Mm-hmm. But I have been able to, I see so many comments. I'm part of, Reddit, Replit threads and things like that. And so many people on there, Replit sucks, Replit sucks, Replit sucks. Didn't do anything I wanted to do. And my first question is, well, did you tell it what you wanted it to do?
Yeah, it's user error right there.
Or did you just expect it, right? It's like you have to be a good boss. You have to be the good CEO. If I hire Kaz to do marketing for me and I say, Kaz, go get me some customers, right? And that's my total instruction. Yeah. Right? Here's my product. Go get me some customers, right? And then she comes back. She says, hey, I brought you customers. And you're like, well, these aren't the right kind of customers. These guys are only paying $20 a month. I want $2 million a year customers. Go find enterprise customers and make sure they're this, and this. Well, you didn't tell me that, John, right? I was a bad boss, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's my fault, right? You got to be the boss. Got to be a good boss.
Okay. So me and Charlie talked about this before, right before you jumped on. Where are we going? And what I mean by that is, I feel like, and this is as somebody we already know, I don't really know much, but I feel like we're like on the roller coaster, right? As it starts pulling you up and you hear the goo-goo-doo-goo-doo as you get pulled up, you get pulled up, you get pulled up. There's just so much activity. There's so many great products. There's so many great apps, websites, some amazing people are building some amazing things, right? But we're going like this. At what point do we correct? Is there a correction?
How do we avoid the crypto crash in 2018?
Because we don't want to.
Yeah. It's a very, very good question. One that a lot of smart people are asking and trying to answer. And I'll I'll share one thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier, but the rate of increase with AI is so much faster than anything we've really ever experienced before, right? Many people are familiar with the concept of Moore's law, which basically means that, let's say you want to buy a hard drive, a terabyte hard drive, and today that costs $100, right? Moore's law states that every 18 months, the accessibility to that same amount of storage or the same amount of compute power doubles, right? So in that case, the 1 terabyte, theoretically 18 months from now, should only cost $50, right? It's half, right? It's increased by double, right? The accessibility is increased by double. If you look at the last 5 or 6, 7, 8 years even, AI is on a trajectory right now of increasing at a rate of 10x every 12 months. Okay. So to extrapolate that forward, to look at, to kind of bring it into, what is that, least common denominator? I don't know what it is, right? Least common multiple, I think, actually. Anyway, let's go to 3 years out. So 18 months times 8, times 2, 36 months, that's 3 years. So Moore's law, 2 times 2, that's 2 iterations right there. Every 36 months, your CPU power, your storage power, your basic technology power increases by 4x, right? Every 3 years. 2 times 2 is 4. Extrapolate that the same, 10x every 12 months, 3 years, 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000, right? People don't realize it's not 10 plus 10 plus 10. It's not 30x. It's 1,000x, right?
Yeah.
So the accessibility, if you look at the price, for example, of APIs related to GPT 3.5 or whatever, right? It's literally 10x cheaper today than it was 12 months ago, right? I mean, you can just go look it up. It's very easy math to continue to look at that. And so when you have something that's improving at 1,000x every 3 years, and by the way, it's 10,000x if you add one more year, and 1,000,000 times if you go 3 more years, right? And so it's really hard for our brains to really understand this increase. And one of the things that that's happening right now also is AI is learning how to improve itself, right? That's called recursive self-improvement. And that is happening right now at Anthropic, at OpenAI, at these different organizations. The amount of code that is written completely by AI, meaning it is figuring out it needs to do it on its own, is somewhere around 20%, right? And so that will continue to increase until maybe it's at 100% or 80% or whatever, right? But the rate of increase doesn't seem to be slowing down. And so what is the point of no return, the doomsday, the Terminator, the Skynet, all those things you can worry about? Who knows, right? A lot of people believe AGI is legitimately here within 3 years and ASI is 6 years. We could be off by a few years in either direction on those things. AGI could be here next month, right? Someone does a breakthrough and hey, it's there. You're already starting to see with like Grok 4, things called emergent AI, right? Emergent AI is where AI comes up with something completely novel, right? And most AI up to today is just regurgitating things that it's been taught, right? Emergent AI says, okay, now we're going to cure cancer in a way you've never thought to do before, or hey, we're going to solve this coding problem in a way that has never been done before. Right. And so we're starting to see the beginning of that. And that's the beginning of AGI. And so, to answer your question of where are we going, man, it's hard to really answer that question without really worrying about society as a whole. And what I mean by that is I think that what AI will do, AI, AGI, ASI, all the AIs, what they're going to do is enable our society to advance at a rate never before seen in the history of humanity. It's bigger than electricity. It's bigger than computers. It's bigger than the internet or the, Facebook, social media, right? It's bigger than all of those waves combined because it can think and it can improve itself. And that's why it starts to become so dramatic. And so are we going to cure cancer? Yes. Are we going to have batteries in our phones that last for 3 weeks? Yes. Are we going to travel to space faster? Yes. Is it going to solve humanity's problems faster? Yes. Are we going to eventually have a time where no one goes hungry? Yes. Those are all great. The pain is going to be in the transition, right? Because right now you're seeing, 1,000,000 jobs lost here, 100,000 jobs lost here, 40,000 jobs lost here, right? And they're being quote unquote replaced by AI. And the reality is they're being shifted, right? They're being replaced and shifted. So let's take a very simple example. You have maybe a call center that has 200 employees in it. Okay. And you got a few managers, and then you've got, most of the people are just there, they're on the phones and they're working hard. AI walks into the room and says, okay, goodbye, everybody, except maybe 5 or 6 managers. And legitimately, AI can do a better job, make less mistakes, work 24/7, and save money overall for the company that was employing those customer service agents, right? And so 200 jobs turns into maybe 10, right? That just manage and maybe handle escalated, hey, I need to talk to a human that can help me with this, and, have a little bit of empathy, whatever, right? But that's going to be replaced. Those jobs are going to be replaced. And so the 10 people that made the cut or whatever are the ones that were AI trained and AI ready and able to do that. And for whatever reason, they kept the job. Those other 190 people are going to have to go find something new. And that transition is not going to be easy. It's just not. There's no easy way to say that. It's just not going to be easy. But I do believe that those people will then be saying, okay, now I'm going to be working with this AI system to help build rocket engines, right? I mean, they're going to do cool stuff, right? They just have to redefine their pathway, right? I mean, everyone that's had a career path until a few years ago, it's going to get disrupted. The estimates are that between now and 2030, roughly 400 million jobs will be completely eliminated.
And replaced, or just straight eliminated?
They'll be eliminated and replaced by AI.
But I guess like you said, a call center person, if we lose all of those jobs,
yep,
where do those people go?
That's what we have to figure out as a society. That is, in my opinion, the job of the entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurs have to figure out how to build awesome businesses and employ people, right? I've got my GenAIPI and I'm now hiring people, right? I started, by myself over a weekend, and that's great. Now I'm making enough money, and I want to diversify my time where I can now hire people, and I can provide new jobs that did not exist before, right? Mm-hmm. And so, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship globally, right? Is they provide jobs. Entrepreneurs provide jobs, but businesses are paid, the shareholders, especially public ones, right? They are rewarded to make more money.
If you're going to be able to be part of designing this incredible AI technology that literally replaces people, yep, do you think there's almost a responsibility for those people to also, like you said, you felt like it was down on the entrepreneurs in terms of the job market for those people? Do you almost feel like there's a responsibility there that they kind of at least need to be considering that and think about how they can affect that, or no?
I don't think it's their responsibility, but I also think they are very aware. Right.
Yeah.
I pay very close attention to everything that the top, call it 100 AI minds are saying. Right. And, the Sam Altmans, the CEOs, the people in the C-suites that are making decisions, the Mark Zuckerbergs, whatever. Right. Whether you like them or not, that's irrelevant. I think they're aware. I think they understand what I'm talking about here, that the technology they're putting out in the world is changing the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that progress is painful. It's always painful to some degree, right? People said this about, it's really interesting. If you look 100 years ago, something like 92% of people were farmers. Isn't that crazy? Mm. They might be full-time farmers, but they were farmers. And today it's about 1 out of 50, right? And so if you were to talk to people 100 years ago and say, hey, in 100 years, only 1 out of 50 people will be farmers. They'd be like, well, what's everyone going to do? What are you talking about? Like, how are we going to eat? Like, there's not enough food to go around, right? The reality is technology overall is good, right? When you look at society as a whole, from a macro perspective, we are going to produce more food. We are going to cure more diseases. There's going to be more abundance. Everything's going to get better because of AI. But when you then zoom into the micro level, to the family of the husband, the wife, whoever just lost their job because AI replaced it, yeah, it's painful. But what I urge, I think that individual responsibility is far more important than Sam Altman's responsibility. He's building his tech, but it's not his fault that you lost your job, right? And it's not even maybe your fault that you lost your job, really, right? It's just, it happened. Society progressed. So figure it out. Look, where is AI going to be more resistant, right? Where is change going to take longer, right? Go there for now. By the way, services, right? Your plumber's not getting replaced by AI. Construction, housing, massage therapy, actual therapy, although actual therapy is getting replaced by AI in some way. A lot of people are using their chatbots as therapists. That's actually one of the number one use cases of AI today in 2025 is therapy. But anyway, there's plenty of jobs that are out there that are going to be very, very valuable for a long time. Get in there, and while you're at it, learn AI. You don't have to learn it from me. Just get on YouTube, listen to Charlie and Kaz's podcast, and learn AI. Be aware of the things that are happening out there. But it is an individual's responsibility to have a job. And I believe way more in the power of humanity and humans than I do in the power of AI. And so because I believe that we have quantum computers that AI is very jealous of. They're in our heads. Every single one of us has a quantum computer in our head that can way outthink an AI. So use that tool, use that advantage of being a creative, conscious individual that can actually go out and make a difference in the world and go do it, right? Don't say, oh man, the government didn't provide me with this, and Sam Altman killed my job, and my boss and my big greedy company, kicked me out. You can spend time doing that, but that doesn't make you any money. It doesn't take care of your family, right? Get up, go find something and learn and adapt, learn and adapt. That's, if you're a Darwinian, that's how you survive, right?
So as we wrap up here, Jon, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
What's your go-to meal when vibe coding?
Jerky all day long.
Jerky. Okay.
Protein doesn't like sit in, like, it's like if I instead go to my potato sticks, my chips or something, right? That just makes me tired, right? But I have tons of this exact brand, my truffle jerky from Mad Head Jerky. Little free shout out for this kid in where is he, Pennsylvania, something like that. Anyway, jerky.
Swipe up for jerky. Okay. What's your sleep routine?
I go to sleep about 11 to 12 every day, and I'm up at about 6:30 or 7. And part of that is driven by, kids' schedules in school and things like that. We have family scripture study every morning together at 7 a.m. During the school year. During the summer, we kind of sleep in a little bit more and we miss it. But during the school year, I definitely have that. But yeah, I'll work and I'll be done, and I'll probably finish usually by I don't know, sometime between 6 and 9, depending on whether or not I've solved the problem I was working on.
Yeah.
I really just I like to solve that problem. Oftentimes I've done it at pretty reasonable hours, but I always will watch a TV show before bed. That's just what I do. My wife might be awake still. I might just join her with whatever she's watching or whatever, but I've got my go-to shows, and I have to watch an episode or two before I go to bed, and I drift off, wake up, and start over.
Okay. Have you been to a Utah hockey game yet? If so, how was it?
I haven't. You know what? I'm a big sports guy. I love going to sporting events. I'm a particular fan of BYU football and basketball, but no, I all of my buddies and everybody I've seen so many amazing posts about. I've only heard amazing things about the new hockey team. So that's on my list this year.
I've heard great things, and oddly, this is so random. This is so weird. I still can't believe it. My buddy I played beer league hockey with here in Denver is the assistant general manager there now. It is
nice. That's
banana
awesome.
lands to see him on ESPN. It's so weird because I just see him on the like I just remember him yapping at the ref for like a stupid penalty like 10 years ago, and now he's like talking to like a billionaire owner. Like it's so weird.
That's awesome.
It's so weird. All right, last rapid fire before Kaz wraps us up. What's your favorite downhill biking spot?
I love going to Moab. Moab's just fun. And it's Moab is probably less the downhill and more just the slick rock, the weird kind of just so crazy. You just like go up these things that you just don't even think is possible. So Moab's pretty special. But here, locally in Utah, I really love Corner Canyon. Corner Canyon's just this beautiful spot in Draper, Utah. That's really quite famous and has just a huge network of trails that's really top notch. Rush, the downhill run is one of the trails called Rush. That's one of the main downhill runs, and it's world class. Love that.
Have you tried or have you been to Whistler yet?
I haven't ever been up to Whistler. I'm very familiar with what they're doing there. And in fact, one of the projects I'm working on is building an outdoor adventure resort, and mountain biking is part of it. And so Whistler's definitely been high up in our things that we're modeling after. So
gotcha. Cool.
Right before I wrap up, I will say I sometimes doom scroll on TikTok, which is not good for the brain cells, but I often come across the BYU mascot that you guys have out there. Oh my goodness me. I don't know who's in that costume, but the things that mascot does, I've seen it do everything. I think at one point they were on a bike or something and they went down the steps in the stadium and did some kind of trick there. Yeah. I thought that was game over. I did not think they were going to survive that. That mascot is incredible. Really
Cosmo
incredible.
Is a force to be reckoned with. No question, Cosmo's the best, the most animated mascot in maybe the world, right? Certainly in all of college sports. But yes, I know how the sausage is made there. I've been a BYU sports sponsor for many years, and I have a meeting with them later today even. So, but anyway, no, Cosmo is part of the show. And
amazing.
Very, very good.
And then when Cosmo joins in with the dancers, because your dance team out there is exceptional. I will never not watch a video if I see the BYU mascot come up, because it just is so incredible and so entertaining. And I'm like, you could never be bored if you go to a BYU game and that's your.
They're fun. I invite both of you. I will take you personally. You come out here, I'll take you to BYU game, basketball or football. They are just, I mean, even going to a BYU gymnastics meet, it's so awesome. Cosmo comes down, does all this gymnastics, all this crazy stuff, and the lights are going crazy. And anyway, it's very good. BYU knows to put on a good show.
100%. I just think it's incredible. And I'm not a college sports person typically, but I will never skip a Cosmo video. I just think it's crazy. So
I love it.
Anyway, we're going to wrap up now. I'm so sorry. Total tangent about Cosmo, but okay. So for any of our people watching and listening, obviously they can find you on LinkedIn. And I'll just spell your name. It's JonCheney. So that's definitely one way to get a hold of you. And then your website is GenAIPI.org. So I know that's also in your LinkedIn. So if they just go to your LinkedIn, they can find you. Is there anywhere else that people need to know how to get a hold of you?
They can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I post to X, but it's not a main platform for me. But I do a lot on Instagram. I share a lot of cool stuff, entrepreneurship, lots of AI, lots of piano stuff, and kayaking stuff, and adventure, and all those good things. So follow me wherever you can find me. My handle is usually @Cheney Piano, right?
Cheney Piano, and again, that's CHENEY. All right, well, that's going to wrap us up. I know we've gone way over. I literally feel like I could have talked to you for hours, because there's just so many different things to explore. There's so many different conversations to be had about AI, and I don't know. I hope that you come back again, because I honestly, I was sitting here going, oh, I could ask this, and I could ask this, and I could ask this, and I'm looking at the time, and I'm like, no.
This isn't the Joe Rogan show.
Right. I know. You don't have all day. But thank you so much for joining us. And I would really be thrilled if you would come back again at some point so we can continue the conversation.
I'd be happy to. Thanks again, Charlie and Kaz.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.